The airplane's drone was a steady, lulling hum, a universal conspiracy to pull me into the depths of unconsciousness. I hadn't slept in what felt like a lifetime, caught between the late-night shift at a Greasy Spoon and an early morning cleaning gig that barely kept my world from falling apart. By the moment I found my seat on this flight, exhaustion had already declared victory. I collapsed into the cramped space, clutching a backpack that seemed to hold the fractured pieces of my existence. My eyelids felt like sandpaper. The world moved in a blur around me, executives with their briefcases, lovers entwined, a family trying to wrangle their energetic children. But I was a ghost. Nobody saw the girl flying solo across the country, lost and insignificant. Nobody ever saw me, except for him. At first, he was just a collection of expensive details. The sharp line of his tailored dark suit, the subtle gleam of a timepiece that cost more than my rent, a scent of cedar and smoke that wound its way through the stale cabin air. He was out of place in coach, that was undeniable. Power was an aura that clung to him. I warned myself not to look, to keep my curiosity locked away. Men of his stature didn't see girls like me. But then he turned, and his gaze landed on me. It was dark, unwavering, and analytical. My stomach clenched. There was a potent intensity in the way he observed me, a strange familiarity, though I was certain our paths had never crossed. A primal instinct screamed at me to break eye contact, so I did, turning to press my head against the cool glass of the window, wishing I could dissolve into the clouds. The aircraft ascended, the cabin lights softened, and the engine's hum deepened. The exhaustion I had been fighting clawed its way back, a weight heavier than any fear. I tried to shift, the seat cushion an unforgiving block beneath me, but the rhythm of the engines was a relentless lullaby. My body gave in. I must have slipped into sleep because the next sensation was warmth. My head had fallen to the side, but instead of the cold plastic of the armrest, it was resting on something firm and very much alive. A cold dread washed over me as I realized the mortifying truth. I had fallen asleep on the stranger's shoulder. A flush of heat crept up my neck, embarrassment slicing through my fatigue. I tried to pull back, to straighten up, but his arm shifted, a subtle, calculated movement, as if he were granting me permission to be there, as if I belonged. My heart hammered against my ribs. I risked a glance up at him. His face was serene, inscrutable, his eyes closed as if he were asleep too. But I knew better. I could sense a quiet tension in his posture, a powerful restraint. He was allowing me to stay. My throat felt tight, and I couldn't tell if I had stumbled into a sanctuary or a trap. For a fleeting second, I considered pulling away, restoring the fragile boundary between us, but my body was a traitor, seduced by the warmth and the rare feeling of being sheltered. My eyelashes fluttered shut again. Just for a moment, I told myself. A single moment. That moment bled into a quiet stillness, and the stillness into a surrender. I never saw the man in the row behind us pass an envelope into the stranger's hand. I didn't register the silent nod of confirmation that passed between them. I didn't hear the soft click of a camera capturing the image of my sleeping form nestled against his shoulder. I was completely lost, adrift in a sea of exhaustion, clinging to that stolen moment of peace. When the plane finally landed hours later, I would recall nothing but the ghost of his scent and the inexplicable way my body had leaned into his, as if it recognized a home it had never known. I didn't know his name, I didn't know his world, and I had no idea that my life had just been irrevocably rewritten. She rested against me as if fate itself had delivered a gift I had already claimed. Her weight was almost nothing, a fragile presence, yet it grounded me more than any vow ever could. I remained perfectly still, though every fiber of my being yearned to move, to possess, to fully entangle her in the reality she was oblivious to. Alice Bandy, the daughter who was never supposed to be found, the lost heir to a fallen dynasty, now resurrected and entirely mine. I observed the gentle curve of her cheek, the faint shadows of weariness under her eyes, the slight parting of her lips with every breath. She saw herself as a nobody, astray. She was clueless about the power her bloodline held, or that rival families in Italy would set the world ablaze to control her. And she was completely unaware that I had already won. While she was lost in her dreams, my people were moving with flawless precision. A woman with a similar build and hair color was already standing before a chapel camera, her face obscured by a veil to hide the details that would shatter the illusion. Documents were prepared, bearing a signature she had unknowingly provided days ago on what she believed was a routine travel form. Paid witnesses, loyal and untraceable, would soon swear they saw her pledge her life to me. Every thread was being woven into an inescapable tapestry. By the time her eyes opened, the cage would be sealed. She stirred beside me, her head shifting closer as she mumbled something unintelligible. I allowed my eyes to remain closed, feigning rest while my mind plotted the next dozen steps. In a city like Las Vegas, everything has a price. Silence, truths, legality. A marriage license is just paper to the uninitiated. But in my world, perception is the only truth that matters. Perception is control. And control was everything. No, not everything. Not anymore. I inhaled the faint scent of her inexpensive shampoo, a hint of vanilla that was uniquely her. It stirred something restless deep within me, an unwelcome emotion that threatened the foundations of my discipline. This was supposed to be a strategic move, a play for my empire, a move in a war between families. But now, with her so close, the very idea of another man even looking at her, let alone touching her, ignited a fire in my veins. The Morettis would want her, the Carusos would try to break her, and if either of them laid a hand on her, I would dismantle their world piece by piece. The seatbelt sign blinked on, and the pilot's voice announced our descent. Alice moved again, her eyelashes fluttering, but she didn't wake. I allowed myself one last unguarded look before my mask of control slid back into place. Cold, commanding, untouchable. The next time she opened her eyes, her freedom would be a memory. She would belong to me, not just through forged signatures and the whispers of false witnesses, but in a reality I would forge myself. The Empire didn't need her love. It didn't need her trust, but I was beginning to realize I wanted both. And I am a man who never leaves a desire unclaimed. The first thing I registered was the oppressive weight of velvet drapes blocking out the world. My body felt heavy, as if I'd been dropped from a great height into a life that wasn't mine. For a disorienting moment, I had no idea where I was. The sheets were impossibly soft, smelling of smoke and rich leather, a world away from the harsh detergent of the cheap motels I was used to. I sat bolt upright. This was not my room. This wasn't a place I could even afford to dream about. Marble with veins of gold lined the walls. A crystal chandelier cast a fractured, glittering light from above, and a bottle of champagne sat chilling in a bucket like a cruel joke. My breath caught in my throat. Las Vegas. The flight. The stranger. His shoulder, my cheek. Then my eyes landed on it. A sleek folder on the bedside table, my name embossed on the cover. With fingers that shook, I opened it. Photographs spilled across the sheets. Me in a white dress, my face partially hidden by a delicate veil. Me, standing at an altar next to the man from the plane. Vincenzo. A roar filled my ears. I had no memory of any of it, not a single second. But the images were so vivid, so real. People in the background, smiling, clapping. My signature, clear as day on a marriage certificate. It was my handwriting, but it felt alien. No, I whispered, shoving the pictures away as if they were on fire. This is impossible. I wasn't there. The door swung open. He entered the room as if he owned it, as if he owned the very air I was struggling to breathe. The dark suit, the eyes like sharpened obsidian, a presence that consumed all the space around him. Vincenzo Dantas, my stranger, my husband. "You're awake," he stated, his voice a smooth, dangerous melody, as if I were merely running late for a dinner we had planned. "I was starting to think I'd have to wake you with a kiss." I scrambled from the bed, pulling the sheet around me like a shield. What is this? These pictures? They're not real. I was never in that chapel. I never said any vows. I never signed that. He took his time approaching, each footstep a deliberate, predatory advance. You were sleeping, yes. But you signed the important part days ago, an agreement at the airport. A simple form, remember? My associates were the witnesses. The rest was a formality. He picked up the folder and tapped the certificate with his index finger. On paper, Alice Dantas, you are mine. I'm not, I choked out, my voice cracking. The denial felt hollow, trapped in my throat, because the documents lay between us like iron chains. You tricked me. This is a sham. It's meaningless. He tilted his head, his gaze unnervingly placid. In your world, perhaps. But in my world, what people believe to be true is the only truth. Every family, every rival, every ally of mine will believe we are bound. That is what defines reality. I shook my head, panic a tidal wave crashing through me. You can't hold me here. I'll call the authorities. A corner of his mouth lifted, not a smile, but something far more chilling. And you'll tell them what? That you fell asleep on an airplane and woke up a married woman? That you regret a decision your own signature validates? You'll sound delusional, unstable. No one will come to your rescue. Tears stung my eyes, hot and infuriating. I hated that he could see them, hated the flicker of power in his gaze as he witnessed my weakness. He reached out and caught my chin, tilting my face upward until my eyes were locked with his. You belong to me now, he murmured, his voice like velvet draped over steel. The sooner you embrace that, the easier this will be. I wrenched my face away, my heart pounding a frantic, painful rhythm against my ribs. I will never belong to you. He released me, taking a step back as if he'd heard that empty promise 1,000 times. But his eyes lingered, a dark fire smoldering within them. We shall see. In that instant, I understood that the bars of my cage weren't made of steel. They were forged from lies, power, and the terrifying certainty that no one in this city, or any other, would ever believe me. And the worst part was, a small, treacherous part of me was afraid he was right. Alice's rage was a magnificent thing, untamed, unrefined, like a spark from flint striking steel. She stood there in the vast suite, clutching a silk sheet around her, her body vibrating with a mix of fury and terror. But all I registered was the inferno in her eyes. So exquisitely fragile, yet so stubbornly unyielding. My perfect paradox. I poured myself a measure of scotch, deliberately ignoring the tremor in her voice as she demanded answers to questions that were now irrelevant. Everything was already in place, signed, sealed, and irrevocably bound. You think you can keep me here? She challenged, her movements like those of a cornered animal. None of this is real. I watched the amber liquid swirl in my glass before taking a deliberate sip. Reality is a matter of perception, Karamia. And in my world, perception is the ultimate power. That makes this very real. Her glare was sharp enough to cut. I'll find a way to prove it. I'll expose everything. Who will you tell? I let the question hang in the air, heavy with unspoken truth. Every witness was handpicked. Every photograph was carefully staged. The signatures are a perfect match. To the world, you are now Mrs. Dantas. You belong to me, not because of some ink on a page or a meaningless ritual, but because I decreed it. She froze, her knuckles turning white where she gripped the sheet. The silence between us became a weapon. I crossed the room with measured steps, my shadow falling over her until she was pinned against the wall with nowhere to go. My hand came to rest on the wall beside her head, trapping her without a single point of contact. Her breathing was rapid, shallow. She despised me, yet I could feel the magnetic pull between us, an invisible cord tightening with every beat of her heart. You deceived me, she whispered, her voice fractured. You had no right. I lowered my head, my lips close to her ear. No right? I had every right. You carry Bandy blood. You are the last daughter of a dynasty everyone thought was extinct. Did you think the Morettis or the Carusos would have given you a choice? They would have used you as a pawn and discarded you without a second thought. I, at least, protect what I claim. Her eyes widened at the name, a flicker of confusion crossing her features. Bandy. She didn't even recognize the name, but the truth of it would be a deeper cut than any lie. "I'm not yours," she hissed, but her voice was a betrayal. A subtle tremor, undeniable and soft, ran through her as my proximity overwhelmed her senses. I allowed myself a faint smirk. "Say whatever you need to. Deny it all you want. But on that plane you leaned into me, Alice. You sought out my warmth before you even knew my name. Your body confesses truths your mouth can't yet form." She shoved at my chest, breaking the invisible cage. I let her retreat, watching as she stumbled back and wrapped her arms around herself, her eyes wild. It was a potent combination: hatred, fear, and beneath it all, something else. Something she couldn't yet name. Something I intended to nurture until it consumed her entirely. I finished the scotch and set the glass down. "We leave for Italy in the morning. There, you will be introduced to the world that already accepts you as mine. And when that happens, you will finally understand. Your defiance changes nothing." Her breath hitched. "I will never forgive you for this." I met her gaze, my own unwavering and relentless, even as something restless coiled in my gut. "I'm not asking for your forgiveness, Alice. I'm asking for your surrender. And I always get what I want." Her silence was a challenge hanging in the air. I turned and walked away before I did something I'd regret. Before the temptation to claim her with more than just words overpowered the control I had spent a lifetime building. Tomorrow, she would step into my world, and whether she arrived screaming or in silence, she would be mine, because I had already made my choice, and I feared nothing in this world more than losing her before she could understand what that truly meant. Sleep was a distant country I couldn't reach, not in this gilded prison of a suite, not under the crushing weight of forged documents stacked like an indictment against me. I wore a path in the plush carpet, my mind racing, clawing for any sliver of a possibility. Escape, denial, a single person who might believe my story. But every road led back to him, to Vincenzo, to the iron trap he had so carefully constructed while I was oblivious. Morning arrived, sharp and unforgiving. Sunlight streamed into the room, but it brought no warmth. I pulled on the same clothes from yesterday, the wrinkled fabric a stark rebellion against the luxury suffocating me. In the mirror, a stranger stared back, pale, haunted, my hair a tangled mess. This was not a bride. This was a captive. When I forced myself to look at the folder again, I scrutinized the signatures. My name, scrawled across the certificate in familiar loops and curves, yet I knew with every fiber of my being that I had not been the one to write it. A wave of panic and fury pulsed through me. He had stolen my identity, twisted my own hand against me. It was a copy, a forgery, a masterfully crafted lie. I wanted to tear it to shreds, to burn it, to watch it turn to ash. But even if I did, the reality he had created would persist. The world already believed his version of the truth. The door opened and he entered, a vision of perfect composure. His black suit was immaculate, the collar of his shirt unfastened just enough to hint at the skin beneath. Power radiated from him, an almost physical force. I despised the way my body responded to it, the heat rising in my cheeks, the hitch in my breath. This wasn't how hatred was supposed to feel. "I want the truth," I snapped, my grip on the certificate so tight the paper crinkled. "This isn't binding. I was never in that chapel. I never gave my consent." He leaned casually against the wall, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "And yet, the documents state otherwise. The witnesses will corroborate it. The photographs memorialize it. Do you honestly believe anyone will challenge the word of Vincenzo Dantas?" "Then it's fraudulent," I hissed, "and that means it can be reversed. I'll challenge you in a court of law if I must." A shadow of a smile touched his lips, slow and maddening. "In court? Do you think laws and judges will protect you? Las Vegas answers to men like me. Judges are on my payroll. Clerks sign whatever I place in front of them. You would be utterly alone," a voice screaming into the void. My chest tightened, the fury inside me burning so hot it made me tremble. "I don't care what kind of power you think you have. I will not be your wife." He pushed away from the wall and closed the space between us, his approach deliberate and menacing, until the heat radiating from him was an undeniable presence. He didn't lay a hand on me, not yet, but the very air around him seemed to press me backward. "Say it again," he murmured, his voice a low growl. "Tell me again what you are not." My throat ached, the words scraping their way out. "I'm not yours." Something shifted in his eyes, dark amusement perhaps, or something closer to hunger. His hand lifted, and he brushed a stray strand of hair from my cheek, a gesture so deceptively gentle it made my knees feel weak. "No," he said, his voice soft, almost speaking to himself. "Not yet." I shoved his hand away, my breath shattering, my heart trying to beat its way out of my chest. The smirk returned, sharper this time, as if he fed on my resistance. "You will see, Alice," he said, turning back toward the door. "By the time we arrive in Italy, you will begin to understand. You can fight, you can rage, but all paths lead back to me. You are already mine." The door clicked shut, leaving me in the deafening echo of his certainty. I clutched the false certificate until its edges dug into my skin, whispering to myself that he was wrong, that I would never yield. But deep down, beneath the inferno of my rage, a treacherous thought flickered. A memory of warmth on the plane, of his shoulder, of a feeling of safety I had no right to want. I crushed the thought before it could take root, telling myself I hated him, telling myself I would find a way out, even as a part of me already knew I was trapped. This suite was more than just a luxurious space. It was a carefully designed stage. Every element, from the heavy silk of the curtains to the polished black marble underfoot, was chosen to underscore the vast chasm between her world and mine. She stood there, a small, defiant figure, glaring at me as if her willpower alone could dissolve the chains I had so meticulously wrapped around her. The thought was almost amusing. Almost. Instead, I unbuttoned my cuffs and poured 2 glasses of wine, placing one on the table before her. She made no move to take it. Her hands remained balled into fists at her sides, as if she believed striking me could somehow shatter this new reality. "Drink," I commanded softly, sinking into the leather sofa. "It might help with the trembling. I don't want anything from you." The venom in her voice was sharper than she probably realized. She thought her anger could wound me. She hadn't yet grasped that I thrived on it. "You need everything from me," I countered smoothly. "Protection, shelter. The very air you breathe is safer under my watch than anywhere else in the world. You simply haven't accepted it yet." Her laugh was a bitter, broken sound. "Protection? You mean imprisonment. You tricked me, Vincenzo. You forged my entire life." I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees, my gaze calm and deliberate. "I secured your life. There is a significant difference. Have you any idea what would happen if the Morettis discovered who you are? Or the Carusos? You would be gone before the ink on a ransom note had time to dry." She flinched, a subtle reaction she tried to conceal. But I saw the tremor in her shoulders, the first crack in her armor of fury. Fear was starting to bleed through. Good. Fear was a useful tool for survival. I rose and closed the distance between us. She took a step back, then another, until her back met the unyielding wall. My hand came up, not to grab her, but to trace the air beside her cheek, close enough for her to feel the heat radiating from my skin. Her breath caught, her eyelashes fluttering, but the defiance in her eyes still burned bright. And yet, her body was a traitor. "You hate me," I murmured, my voice a low caress against her skin. "But your pulse is telling a very different story." Her chest rose and fell in rapid, shallow breaths. "You're imagining things." I smirked, leaning in until her scent, vanilla, soft, entirely her, filled my lungs. "No, I don't imagine. I take, I claim. I make real the things other men only dare to dream of." Her lips parted. Whether it was to protest or for some other more dangerous reason, I couldn't be sure. For a charged moment, the space between us grew thick, humming with unspoken possibilities. My mouth hovered a hair's breadth from hers, not touching but promising. Her eyes widened, a silent war raging within her. Flee or fall. I was the one who pulled back. Not from a lack of will, but because I wanted her to feel the void, the ache of what could have been. Control was a game, and I was a master. "You'll stay here for the night," I said, stepping away and retrieving my glass. "Sleep, rage, destroy something if it makes you feel better. Tomorrow we fly to Italy." Her voice shook, but she forced the words out like daggers. "You will never own me." I turned my head just enough to meet her gaze, a faint smile playing on my lips. "You already carry my name, Alice. The rest is merely a matter of time." I left her there, leaning against the wall, breathless and trembling, her eyes a storm of hatred and something else, something she would never admit to. Not yet. The suite door clicked shut behind me, and I carried the echo of her frantic heartbeat with me like a trophy. The private jet sliced through the sky, descending over Naples like a blade against the horizon. Through the window, the coastline was a glittering, fragmented jewel against the vast, dark sea. It should have been a beautiful sight, but all I felt was the tightening of invisible chains with every mile we crossed. Vincenzo had been mostly silent during the flight, engrossed in documents, his voice a low murmur as he issued commands in rapid Italian I couldn't comprehend. Even in his silence, his presence was overwhelming, filling the entire cabin. I sat opposite him, my arms crossed, forcing myself to stare out the window, to not think about how close he'd been the night before, how his nearness had threatened to consume me. When we landed, a convoy of black sedans was waiting on the tarmac. Men in dark suits moved with the fluid grace of predators, their heads bowed in a show of reverence that sickened me. I was ushered into the back of a car, pressed between the cold leather and his silent, imposing form as the city streaked past in a blur. No one gave me a second glance. In their eyes, I was already his property. The gates materialized out of nowhere, colossal structures of iron and gold that rose higher than seemed possible, swinging open to reveal a world deliberately hidden from view. The Dantas estate was not a home. It was a fortress. The long driveway snaked through flawlessly manicured gardens, past marble statues and fountains that whispered of paradise. But the armed guards posted at every turn spoke the truth. This was a kingdom, and I was its captive queen. The mansion itself was a looming palace of pale stone, its balconies draped in ivy, its windows like 100 watchful eyes. My chest tightened as the car came to a stop. I had never seen such opulence in my life. For a dizzying moment, the orphan girl inside me, the one who was always hungry, always wanting, felt a pang of longing at the sight of such impossible wealth. Then reality crashed back in. None of it was mine. I was just another possession, locked away within its walls. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of roses and polished antiques. Chandeliers dripped crystals from the high ceilings, and my hesitant steps echoed on the marble floors. Servants bowed as Vincenzo passed, their eyes downcast, their lips sealed. When their gazes flickered toward me, I saw a mixture of curiosity, pity, and fear. They knew exactly who he was, and they believed the lie of who I was supposed to be. "This is your home now," Vincenzo announced, his voice a velvet command. "You will be provided with everything you could possibly need." I spun to face him, my fury finally boiling over. "A gilded cage is still a cage." A smile that never reached his eyes curved his lips. "Better gilded than 6 feet under." I wanted to scream, to claw at the perfect opulent walls, to run until my lungs burned. But where could I possibly go? Outside these gates, I was a nobody. Inside, I was trapped with a man who could bend the world to his will. My nails dug into my palms as I followed him deeper into the heart of the mansion. He led me to a bedroom more magnificent than any I could have imagined. Velvet curtains, intricately carved furniture, and a private balcony overlooking the gardens. The closet was filled with dresses in my size, shoes, jewelry, even perfumes. The sight of it all made my stomach churn. He had planned every last detail, studied my measurements, calculated my existence, and erased my past. When he finally left, closing the door behind him, I collapsed onto the edge of the massive bed, fighting back tears that threatened to overwhelm me. The silence of the room was suffocating. I threw open the balcony doors, desperate for fresh air, and stared out at the night. The stars were sharp, cold, and distant. Beyond the estate's walls, the world continued on, free and unreachable. Somewhere in the deepest part of my soul, I made a vow. I would not be broken. He could dress me in his silks, surround me with his riches, and call me his wife. But he would never have the part of me that mattered. And yet, as the memory of his intense gaze returned, his voice murmuring that I belonged to him, a traitorous shiver ran down my spine. I wrapped my arms around myself, whispering a desperate promise into the night. I'll find a way out. I have to. But as I said the words, the iron gates of the Dantas estate seemed to mock me, as if they already knew the truth. No one ever escaped once Vincenzo had made his claim. The council chamber was thick with the scents of expensive cigars, aged wine, and raw ambition. My capos, the pillars of my empire, were assembled around the long mahogany table. Their voices were low, their eyes sharp. These were men who had built fortunes from silence and violence. Men who answered to no one but me. And every single one of them watched as I entered with Alice by my side. She faltered at the threshold, her hand twisting the fabric of her dress, her shoulders rigid. She was no longer the girl from the plain. The silk dress, carefully selected by my staff, clung to her form. She looked as if she belonged in this world, even if her heart was still in rebellion. I could feel the weight of their gazes on her, assessing her, coveting her. I allowed the silence to hang in the air, a testament to my authority. Then, placing a hand on the small of her back, I guided her forward, a clear, unspoken declaration to every man in the room. She stood under my protection, under my claim. "This is my wife," I announced, my voice as unyielding as stone. "Alice Dantas." A ripple of murmurs went through the room. A few masks of composure slipped, revealing surprise, suspicion, and envy. They had heard the rumors, but this was the confirmation. The Dantas name was now tied to something more ancient, more volatile. "Bandy," one of the old guard, Carlo, said, leaning back as smoke curled from his cigar. "A Vegas wedding? You work quickly, Vincenzo." His tone was heavy, a challenge veiled in curiosity. My jaw tightened, but I permitted a thin, cold smile. The most critical decisions are best made swiftly before others have a chance to interfere. Alice stiffened beside me. I could feel the battle raging within her, the urge to cry out, to deny everything. I slid my hand lower on her back, a silent warning. "Not here, not now." Another capo, Rossi, raised his glass in a mock toast. "A beautiful bride, though she seems delicate. You'll need to keep a close watch on her." His gaze lingered on Alice for a moment too long. The primal urge to break his hand flared within me, but my expression remained a cold, unreadable mask. "She is well guarded," I stated flatly. "Anyone who questions that is welcome to test my resolve." The table fell silent. Rossi's smirk vanished. "Good." Alice shifted, and I caught the flicker in her eyes as she glanced at me, resentful, yet also afraid. She was beginning to grasp the gravity of this world, the predators that circled her. And though she despised being claimed by me, she was starting to understand that without my claim, she wouldn't survive a single day. The meeting continued. Discussions of territories, shipments, debts collected and owed. I delivered orders, resolved disputes, and asserted my dominance, reminding each man why I was the one at the head of this table. Through it all, Alice was a silent, burning presence beside me. When the business was concluded, I rose, pulling her with me. "My wife and I will be dining alone." It was not a request. Chairs scraped against the floor as the men stood, murmuring their goodbyes. Their eyes followed us as we departed, some respectful, some hostile, all calculating. The moment the heavy doors closed behind us, Alice ripped her arm from my grasp. She spun to face me, her voice a furious whisper. "You paraded me in front of them like I was some kind of prize." I looked down at her, allowing the fire in my own eyes to show. "Not a prize, proof. In this war, you are the line between weakness and dominance, and now no one will ever forget which side you stand on." She shook her head, her eyes bright with unshed fury, her lips trembling with words she couldn't speak. For a dangerous moment, I wanted to silence her rebellion with a kiss, to force her to admit the craving she fought so hard to deny. Instead, I took a step back, reining in the impulse. "You will learn, Alice," I said softly. "In this world, perception is survival. And tonight, you survived." Her breath caught, defiance and fear warring in her gaze. I turned away before I did something reckless, but the heat of her resistance lingered, burning brighter than any victory I had declared at that table. Dinner in the grand dining hall was a theatrical performance. Long polished tables gleamed under the light of crystal chandeliers. Silent servants moved between courses, and every gaze that wasn't on Vincenzo seemed to land on me. I held my chin high, my posture rigid, though inside I felt like an imposter, a fraud draped in expensive silk, seated next to the man who had stolen my identity. The atmosphere grew tense when a late guest arrived. He moved with the fluid grace of a man who commanded attention, a man who knew the power he wielded, Matteo Moretti. The name registered a second before the face. His family had been a topic of hushed discussion at the council meeting, and now here he was, a perfect embodiment of charm and menace. He approached our table, his eyes flicking from Vincenzo to me. "Vincenzo," he greeted, his voice polite but with a sharp underlying edge. Then his gaze settled on me, warm and appreciative. "And this must be the beautiful new bride I've heard so much about." Unwanted heat flooded my cheeks. "Alice," I said, my voice a little too quick, as if speaking my own name could reclaim a piece of myself. His smile widened. "Alice, a lovely name." Before I could react, he took my hand, bowing slightly as his lips brushed against my skin. It was a gesture both old-world and deliberately provocative. His eyes, dark and amused, never left mine, as if he knew exactly how much it would provoke Vincenzo. Beside me, I felt Vincenzo go rigid. The temperature seemed to drop several degrees, though his expression remained a mask of stone. Only the dangerous tightening of his hand around his wine glass betrayed the storm brewing within. Matteo released me and took a seat across from us. The conversation picked up again, but it was strained, brittle. I tried to focus on the exquisite food that tasted like ash in my mouth, but I could feel Matteo's eyes returning to me, his gaze lingering a moment too long. Vincenzo's silent fury was a palpable force beside me, a warning that made the hairs on my arms stand on end. At one point, Matteo leaned forward, his voice a low murmur cutting through the hum of conversation. "It must be quite overwhelming, stepping into this world so suddenly. If you should ever find yourself in need of a friend, someone to guide you." The words trailed off, the implication as sharp as a knife. My pulse faltered. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could utter a sound, Vincenzo's hand clamped down on my knee beneath the table. His grip was firm, possessive, a silent command. I froze, my breath catching in my chest as he answered for me. "My wife has no need for anything from outside this family," he said, his voice smooth but with steel underlying every word. "She is very well looked after." Matteo's infuriating smile returned. "Of course. Still, the offer is there." The rest of the meal passed in a tense, brittle silence. I could barely breathe, caught between the unsettling charm of one man and the smoldering wrath of the other. When we finally rose to leave, Vincenzo guided me out with a hand pressed firmly against the small of my back, a sharp reminder that I was on a very short leash. The moment the dining hall doors closed behind us, his grip tightened, and he spun me around to face him in the dimly lit corridor. His eyes were blazing, colder than ice and hotter than fire. "You will not look at him again," he commanded, his voice a low vibration of barely controlled rage. I shoved at his chest, my own anger rising to meet his. "I did nothing. He was simply being polite." "Polite?" Vincenzo hissed. "He touched you. He put his mouth on your skin. That will not happen again." His raw possessiveness struck a chord deep inside me, part fury, part something else I refused to acknowledge. My pulse hammered against my throat. "You don't own me." His hand shot out, catching the back of my neck, pulling me so close our foreheads were almost touching. His voice dropped, becoming rough and ragged. "No, but I will. And men like Matteo will learn that lesson." The words should have terrified me, Perhaps they did, but the heat in his eyes, the sheer proximity of his body, ignited something reckless within me. I hated him. I hated this situation. And yet, my lips trembled with the dangerous, undeniable urge to close the distance between us. I tore myself away, breathless, glaring at him with all the defiance I could muster. "You're insane." He only smiled, a chilling, predatory expression. "Only when it comes to you." The ballroom was a sea of glittering chandeliers, gold leaf, and the elegant hum of violins. Politicians, businessmen, and their shadowed counterparts mingled seamlessly, their dark dealings hidden behind polished facades. This was the heart of my empire, Naples, and tonight, every influential eye would be on us. Alice was at my side, a vision in silk the color of a midnight sky, her hair swept up in a way that exposed the delicate line of her neck. She looked every bit the queen, though the storm in her eyes betrayed the truth. Her defiance was a perfume I could sense with every step she took. The moment we entered, the whispers began. Men stared, some with envy, others with a hunger that made my jaw tighten. I let them look. That was the point. She was mine, and they needed to see it. Then he materialized. Matteo Moretti, gliding through the crowd with that practiced smile and a perfectly tailored suit. His nod to me was a shallow, perfunctory gesture, but when he turned his attention to Alice, his charm became a weapon. "Signora Dantas," he greeted, extending a hand. "You are radiant this evening. May I have this dance?" Before I could utter a single word, before I could forbid it, Alice hesitated for a fraction of a second, and then placed her hand in his. A silent, consuming fury roared through me as Matteo led her to the dance floor. They moved together, her steps hesitant, his confident. He leaned in, whispering something that made her lips tighten, but she didn't pull away. All around us, the whispers grew louder. This was a performance, and Matteo was the lead actor. Every turn, every step was a deliberate insult, a challenge carved into my authority. I allowed it to continue just long enough for the message to be clear to everyone watching. Then, I crossed the floor, the crowd parting before me like the sea. The violins swelled, but the music seemed to fade beneath the thunder in my veins. When I reached them, I didn't ask. I didn't speak. I seized Alice's hand, wrenching her from his grasp, and in the same fluid motion, pulled her flush against my body. In the center of the grand ballroom, my mouth crashed down on hers, a hard, merciless kiss that was anything but tender. Gasps rippled through the room. The whispers sharpened into a storm. But the only thing I cared about was the taste of her, a potent mix of fire and fury. Her lips were stiff with resistance for a moment, and then, for a fraction of a second, she yielded. I felt the surrender in her, the truth of her pulse racing to match the frantic rhythm of my own. When I finally broke the kiss, her cheeks were flushed crimson, her eyes blazing with a mixture of hatred and confusion. My thumb brushed her jaw, a silent, possessive claim, before I turned my gaze on Matteo. He stood frozen, his smile gone, his eyes narrowed with a cold, calculated rage. Good, I thought. Let him choke on it. Touch my wife again, I said, my voice low but carrying enough to be heard by half the room. And the next time, you'll be dancing with bullets. Matteo inclined his head, a mockery of respect. Of course, Vincenzo. Forgive my enthusiasm. His tone was laced with venom, but he stepped back, conceding the round. I led Alice off the floor, her body rigid in my arms. She hissed under her breath. You humiliated me. No, I corrected, my voice low and hard. I saved you, from him, from every man in this room who thinks he can take what is mine. They needed a demonstration, and now they have it. Her eyes glittered with unshed tears of pure rage. I am not yours. I stopped in the shadows of the marble columns and turned her to face me. You are, not because of a piece of paper or a staged photograph, but because I chose you, because I will protect you from everything, including your own naive choices. She glared at me, trembling, torn between her hatred and something else she refused to acknowledge. My grip on her softened, a dangerous tenderness slipping through my armor. For a heartbeat, I wanted to kiss her again, not with rage, but with need, with a desperate possessiveness. Instead, I released her, letting the absence of my touch sting. Stay close to me for the rest of the night, or I swear I will burn this city to the ground to keep you in my sight. The music swelled once more, and the world moved on around us. But for me, the night had been decided. The war had officially begun, and she was both my greatest weapon and my most devastating weakness. The ride back from the ball was a suffocating ordeal. The car moved in silence, the city's lights flashing across the windows, but the quiet between us screamed louder than any argument. Vincenzo sat beside me, his hands resting calmly on his knees, as if he hadn't just assaulted me in front of Naples' elite. As if his mouth hadn't crushed mine while the world watched. My own hands trembled in my lap. I told myself it was from rage, not fear. Rage was a cleaner, safer emotion, but my skin still hummed from the force of his kiss, and that's what infuriated me the most. I should have been repulsed by every second, but for a terrifying moment, a part of me had given in. A part of me had wanted it. When we arrived back at the estate, I stormed past him, the silk of my gown whispering against the cold marble floors. I didn't wait for him, but I knew he would follow. He was a shadow I couldn't shake. I reached my chambers, spun around, and confronted him with every ounce of fury I possessed. "You had no right," I shouted, my voice echoing in the cavernous room. "No right to drag me out there, to put your mouth on me in front of all those people, as if I were some trophy you had won." His jaw tightened, but his eyes burned with the same fire I felt. "No right? You think I would stand aside while Matteo paraded you around that floor? He touched what belongs to me, Alice." "He used you to challenge me." I gave him my answer. "I am not yours," I screamed, my chest heaving. "Do you hear me? I will never, ever be yours." He closed the distance between us in 3 long, relentless strides, until my back was pressed against the wall. His hands slammed down on either side of me, caging me in. His face was inches from mine, his breath hot, his voice a low, rough growl. "Say it again. Look me in the eye and say it while your heart is pounding like a war drum." My pulse was a traitor, thundering so loudly I was sure he could hear it. I hated him for being right, for knowing the language my body spoke against my will. My lips parted, trembling. "I hate you." His gaze dropped to my mouth, a raw hunger burning through the anger. "Good," he whispered. "Hate me. Direct all your fire at me, as long as every thought, every breath you take, belongs to me. I'll take it." My hands flew up, pushing against his chest, but he was an immovable force. I shoved again, my fists hammering against him, my rage finally dissolving into tears. Only then did he step back, as if my complete breakdown was the only force strong enough to repel him. "You will not own me," I managed, my voice shaking but firm. Not my mind, not my heart. His expression softened, just for a moment, a dangerous flicker of something that unsettled me more than his rage. "You already reside in my heart, Alice, whether you wish to or not." The words hit me like a physical blow, cutting through the anger and the logic. I hated that they lingered. I hated that they made something deep inside me ache. He turned away before I could form a reply, his fists clenched at his sides. "Get some sleep," he ordered, though his voice lacked its usual iron command. "We will not speak of this again tonight." When the door closed behind him, I slid down the wall to the floor, hot tears streaming down my face, my chest still heaving from the storm he had unleashed. I pressed a hand to my lips, furious with myself for remembering the taste of him, for craving the very thing I swore to despise. "I will not break," I whispered to the empty, opulent room. But the echo of his words haunted me. "You already reside in my heart." The study was thick with the scent of smoke and leather, the air heavy with the promise of violence. Matteo stood across from me, his hands tucked casually in his pockets, as if this were a friendly visit and not a declaration of war. His smile was polished, infuriatingly calm, a mask designed to provoke me. "You put on quite a performance tonight," he said, his voice smooth as silk but lined with steel. "Kissing your new bride for all to see. A bit dramatic even for you." My fingers curled around the edge of my desk, the polished wood groaning under the pressure. "You touched her," I stated, my voice flat and cold. "That was your first and only mistake." His eyebrows rose in feigned innocence. "Touched her? I danced with her. A courtesy. She's new to our world, Vincenzo. I was merely making her feel welcome." The lie beneath his polished civility burned through my composure. He hadn't wanted to welcome her. He had wanted to provoke me, to test my boundaries, to see how far he could push before I broke. And worse, Alice had allowed it. For a moment, my blood boiled with the memory. "You will maintain your distance," I growled. "You will not speak to her. You will not look at her. And you will most certainly never lay a hand on her again." Matteo tilted his head, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. "Ah, so the rumors are true. The great Vincenzo Dantas, untouchable and unshakable, finally has a weakness, a very beautiful one." I moved before the thought was even complete, crossing the room and seizing him by the collar of his expensive jacket. His back hit the wall with a dull thud, his smirk barely faltering as my forearm pressed against his throat. "Say her name again," I hissed. "I dare you. I will carve the word from your tongue myself." His laugh was a choked, grating sound against the pressure of my arm. "Careful, Vincenzo. If you dispatch me here in your own home, the scent of it will spread across the city. They will all know you spilled it over a woman." Rage clawed at me, demanding I snap his neck and be done with it. But a sliver of cold, biting logic forced its way through. He was right. Taking him out here would shatter alliances and ignite a war I wasn't fully prepared for. Still, I leaned closer, my voice a solemn promise. "If you so much as breathe in her direction again, you won't be alive long enough to regret it." I shoved him back, releasing him, though every muscle in my body screamed to finish the job. He adjusted his jacket with infuriating calm, smoothing the fabric as if I hadn't just been moments from crushing his windpipe. "Interesting," he murmured, his eyes gleaming. "You claim her so forcefully, yet she looks at you like a prisoner eyeing her jailer. I wonder, does she burn for you, or does she dream of the day she can escape?" My fist slammed into the desk beside me, the wood splintering under the impact. "Leave." He inclined his head, mock respect dripping from the gesture. "As you wish. But remember, Vincenzo, possession is not devotion, and devotion is something you can't steal." He left without another word, his footsteps echoing down the hall, leaving the stench of his challenge in the air. Alone, I raked a hand through my hair, my chest heaving. The truth he had hinted at dug under my skin. Alice's eyes did burn when she looked at me, but it was with anger and defiance, not yet with the fire I craved, not yet with the kind of devotion that would bind her to me as surely as any forged document. I leaned against the broken desk, the image of her face rising in my mind, eyes wet with fury, lips trembling with words she swore she'd never say. My weakness, my obsession, my undoing. I had never feared another man. But Matteo was right about one thing. She was the only one who could truly destroy me, and I would burn the entire world down before I let that happen. The night air was sharp, carrying the scent of salt and smoke as I moved through the silent corridors of the estate, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. I had waited for this moment, for the house to fall into a deep quiet, for the guards to change their rotation, for a chance to slip unseen beyond the gates and into the night. It was my only hope. Every step was a battle against the fear coiling in my stomach. If I was caught, Vincenzo's wrath would be absolute. But the alternative, suffocating in silk and marble, was a slower, more certain end. I pressed myself into the shadows, moving past dimly lit windows toward a side entrance I had mentally mapped. My hands trembled as I reached for the latch, praying the darkness would offer me its mercy. Then, a voice sliced through the silence. "Leaving so soon?" I froze, the air trapped in my lungs. Matteo emerged from the shadows, a faint smile playing on his lips in the moonlight. His suit jacket was open, his tie loose, but his eyes were sharp, missing nothing. My throat closed around the words. I just needed to get out, for a little while. He tilted his head, a gesture of mock consideration. Out from Vincenzo's gilded palace? A very bold move. I swallowed hard. I can't breathe in here. He fabricated everything. He trapped me. You saw it. You know none of this is real. Matteo's smile deepened, but there was no warmth in it. Oh, I know. And I also know how to make it unreal. Documents can be destroyed. Witnesses can be silenced. Freedom has a price, if you deal with the right person. A prickle of unease ran down my spine. What are you proposing? He stepped closer, his voice a low, conspiratorial whisper. Come with me, Alice. I can get you away from this place, away from him. You don't have to belong to Vincenzo. You could belong somewhere else. Belong. The word scraped against my soul. For a fleeting, desperate moment, hope ignited within me. Perhaps this was my chance, the escape I had been praying for. But then I looked into his eyes and saw the hunger there. It wasn't the protective, possessive fury I saw in Vincenzo. It was something colder, more calculating. He didn't desire me. He desired what Vincenzo valued. He wanted to use me as a weapon. You don't care about me, I whispered, the realization hitting me with the force of a physical blow. You just want to hurt him. His smirk widened, devoid of any shame. Does the motive matter? You get your freedom. I get my revenge. Our objectives are aligned. My chest tightened. It was just a trade, one cage for another. No matter where I turned, I was a piece in someone else's game. I'll find my own way, I said, forcing a strength I didn't feel into my trembling voice. I took a step back, my hand finding the doorframe behind me. Matteo's hand shot out, his grip like steel on my wrist. His voice dropped, velvet wrapped around poison. Don't be a fool, Alice. He will end up destroying you. With me, at least you'll be alive to watch his empire fall. I wrenched my arm free, my heart racing. I'd rather take my chances with him than ever be your prize. For a second, his mask slipped. His eyes narrowed and his jaw tightened with irritation. Then he let out a low chuckle, a sound that sent a chill down my spine. Brave girl. Let's see how long that bravery holds out. He melted back into the shadows as quickly as he had appeared, leaving me shaken and breathless. My knees felt weak, but I forced myself to stand. Escape wasn't the answer. Matteo had just proven that. The world beyond Vincenzo's walls was just a different kind of trap, one with sharper teeth. I relatched the door and retreated into the gilded prison I had so desperately wanted to flee. My heart was a tangled mess of confusion. I craved freedom, but Matteo's touch had repulsed me in a way Vincenzo's possessive fury never had. Back in the safety of my room, I collapsed against the door, hot tears of frustration burning my cheeks. Maybe I was damned either way. Maybe there was no real escape. But one truth gnawed at me, relentless and terrifying. If I had to choose between two devils, I would rather face the one I already knew. The faint click of the latch echoed down the corridor, a small but telling sound. I was in my office when the report came. A guard had noted movement near the side entrance, too quiet, too deliberate to be a servant. My blood ran cold, then hot. Alice. I found her just outside her chambers, her breath coming in short gasps, her eyes wide with a haunted look. She froze the moment she saw me, and in that single, silent moment, I knew. She had tried to run. A surge of rage, sharp and venomous, coursed through me. Not at her attempt to flee, but at the thought of her out there, alone, unguarded, within reach of predators like Matteo. My chest ached with the terrifying image of her slipping through my grasp, falling into his hands. The fury was no longer just possessive. It was primal. I closed the distance between us in a single stride, my hand wrapping around her wrist before she could retreat. You tried to leave me, I said, my voice low, not a question, but a verdict. She struggled against my grip, fire igniting in her eyes. I will not be your prisoner. I had to try. I dragged her back, pinning her against the stone wall, my body caging hers, so close I could feel the frantic hammering of her heart. Do you have any comprehension of what would have happened to you if you had made it past those gates? The Morettis, the Carusos, they would have torn you to pieces just to get to me. Is that what you want? I want my life back, she cried, her voice cracking, her eyes shimmering with tears. I want to be able to breathe without your shadow suffocating me. I want to be free. Her words cut deeper than she could ever know. For a moment, my resolve wavered, but then I saw Mateo's influence in her defiance, heard his name in her resistance, and my fury returned, a fire consuming dry wood. You spoke with him, I growled, every muscle in my body tensing. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Did you really believe Matteo Moretti offers salvation? He would use you, discard you, and laugh while you bled. He doesn't want you, Alice. He wants to destroy me. And you almost handed him the weapon to do it. Her lips trembled, but she lifted her chin, her pride a shield even in her fear. Better his cage than yours. The words ignited something feral inside me. My hand shot up to cup her jaw, forcing her to meet my gaze. Lies, I hissed. You can spit them all night, but your body tells the truth. Even now, her breath hitched, her chest rising and falling rapidly against mine. I leaned in, so close I could taste the defiance on her lips. Tell me you don't feel this, Alice. Tell me your pulse doesn't race when I touch you. Tell me you don't burn with the same fire that is consuming me. She glared at me, her eyes glassy, her lips parted. For a heartbeat, I thought she would deny it. Then she shoved me, her fists hitting my chest, striking not to wound, but to survive the tempest within her. A cry tore from her throat, half scream, half sob. I caught her wrists, pinning them against the wall, holding her still as I lowered my forehead to hers. My voice was ragged, stripped of all artifice. Hate me, curse me, but do not ever give yourself to him. You are mine, Alice, even if it destroys us both. For a long, breathless moment, we remained locked in that position, her body trembling against mine, my senses drowning in her scent, her fire, her tears. They were undoing me in a way no blade ever could. Then I released her, stepping back as if tearing flesh from bone. My chest heaved, my control hanging by a single frayed thread. Go on, dream of your escape, I muttered, my voice hoarse. But understand this, you will never run far enough. I turned and walked away before I shattered completely, before the temptation to claim her in ways beyond words crossed the line from fury into madness. Behind me, her silence was a heavy, trembling weight, and I knew that tonight, though she hated me more than ever, she also understood one brutal truth. I would burn the world to keep her from slipping away. It happened with brutal speed. One moment, I was pacing my chamber, my nerves frayed from Vincenzo's suffocating fury. The next, the balcony doors imploded inward, and masked figures stormed through, shadows armed with blades. A scream ripped from my throat before a gloved hand clamped over my mouth, yanking me backward. The taste of leather filled my mouth as I fought, my nails clawing at the arm that pinned me. Quiet, one of them hissed in Italian, his voice low and cruel. Or we'll break you before we deliver you. Terror, cold and absolute, flooded my veins. I kicked, I struggled, but they were too strong. A rough rope bit into my wrists as they bound me and dragged me toward the balcony. The night air was sharp with the smell of discharged weapons. Someone had silenced the guards. Ragged sobs escaped me as the reality of the situation crashed down. This wasn't a bad dream, it was real. And Vincenzo was nowhere to be found. The men shoved me into the back of a van. My dress caught on the door, the sound of tearing silk a minor note in a symphony of terror. The engine roared to life, tires screaming as we sped away into the darkness. My body slammed against the cold metal floor, the ropes on my wrists burning with every jolt. Why are you doing this? I choked out, my voice breaking. What do you want? The one who appeared to be the leader turned, his mask pulled low enough to show a cruel grin that chilled me to the bone. We want you, your leverage. The Carusos will pay a very high price to see Dantis on his knees. Caruso, rivals, enemies. The name sliced through me. I was no longer just a pawn in Vincenzo's game. I was now a weapon to be used in theirs. Fear clawed at my chest. For all his lies and manipulations, Vincenzo had kept me safe. Here, in the hands of his enemies, I was nothing but prey. Hours blurred into a nightmare of motion and darkness. The van finally screeched to a halt in what felt like a cavernous, abandoned space. They dragged me out and threw me into a chair, binding me again, the ropes cutting even deeper into my skin. The air smelled of rust and decay. Then a door creaked open and Matteo stepped into the room. My stomach plummeted. He wasn't wearing a mask. He didn't need one. "Hello, Alice," he said, his voice smooth, as if we were old friends meeting for a drink. "You look terrified." "Don't be. You're safe with me now." "Safe?" I spat, my voice a broken mix of fury and terror. "You're one of them." He crouched before me, his eyes gleaming with a sick amusement. "I tried to warn you. Vincenzo doesn't deserve you. With me, you can have your freedom." His fingers brushed a strand of hair from my face, a mock gentle gesture. "But first, he needs to bleed." Tears burned my eyes as I jerked my head away. "You don't care about me. You're just using me to get to him." His smile curved, becoming sharper. "Perhaps, but if you're smart, you can come out of this alive. Side with me, Alice. Be the reason Vincenzo's empire crumbles, and I'll make sure you live to see it." Revulsion twisted in my gut. In that moment, I found myself longing for Vincenzo's possessive fury, his suffocating presence, his unbreakable claim. Because with him, at least I hadn't felt like this, like a piece of meat thrown to wolves. I lifted my chin, defying the tears. "I would rather die than help you betray him." For the first time, Matteo's smile wavered. His eyes darkened with sharp irritation. He rose and began to pace around me, his voice dropping to a venomous hiss. "Careful, Bella. Vincenzo may have put you in a cage, but I can break you into pieces." Fear shook my body, but I held his gaze, refusing to let him see me crumble. Inside, though, I was unraveling. The ropes grew tighter, the shadows seemed to close in, and all I could hold on to was a single desperate hope. That Vincenzo would come, that he would find me, that this wasn't the end. Because if it was, I would never get the chance to decide if I hated him forever, or if I would finally admit the dangerous truth that was clawing at my heart. The call came just after midnight. One of my guards, his breath ragged, the words clipped with panic. "They have her." I didn't need to ask who. Caruso. The name alone was enough to set my blood on fire, and Matteo's scent was all over this. I could feel it in my bones. He dared. Rage was a cold, sharp thing, guiding my every move as I armed myself. A handgun, a blade, enough ammunition to quell a small army. My men scrambled to keep up, but I didn't wait. This was not a mission. This was personal. This was war, and Alice was the only territory worth defending. The warehouse was a dark silhouette against the harbor, its broken windows faintly glowing. Guards lingered outside, the red tips of their cigarettes like warning lights in the dark. They never saw me coming. The first one fell with a blade to his throat. The second, with a silenced round to the skull. Efficient. Silent. My rage channeled into deadly precision. Inside, the stench of rust and gasoline filled the air. I followed the sound of voices until I saw her. Tied to a chair, her wrists raw, tear tracks on her face. But her eyes, her defiant eyes, were fixed on Matteo. My wife. My weakness. My salvation. "Last chance, Alice," he was saying, his hand stroking the air near her cheek. "Choose me and you live. Defy me and I'll leave you in pieces for him to find." I moved before he could lay a finger on her. My weapon roared, once, twice. Caruso's men dropped. Chaos erupted. Shouts, gunfire, bodies hitting the concrete. Alice's scream, raw and terrified, cut through the noise. Matteo spun towards me, his face a mask of fury. "Vincenzo." I fired again. The bullet tore through his shoulder, sending him stumbling back. He cursed, retreating into the shadows as his remaining men dragged him away. A coward. I would end him another time. I cut down the last of his soldiers before they could reach her, the walls painted with proof of my wrath. When the final body fell, a profound silence descended, broken only by Alice's ragged, desperate breaths. I dropped my weapon and crossed the room, slicing through the ropes that bound her. The moment her hands were free, she collapsed into me, her body racked with trembling sobs. My arms wrapped around her instinctively, fiercely, pulling her into the solid reality of my chest. "It's over," I whispered, my voice raw. "You're safe. I have you." She shook her head against my chest, her words fractured. I thought you weren't coming." I silenced her, my hand cupping her cheek, forcing her to look at me. "Never. Do you understand? I would tear this entire city down, stone by stone, before I would let them keep you." Her eyes searched mine, wide and shining with something more than fear, something that unraveled me completely. I didn't wait. I couldn't. I crushed my mouth to hers, a desperate, devouring kiss, pouring every ounce of my rage, my terror, and my need into it. She stiffened for a single heartbeat, then melted, her arms clinging to me as if she finally believed it, that I was her only sanctuary in this brutal world. The taste of her was salt and fire, tears and defiance. It was life itself. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was a brutal, messy, desperate affirmation of survival. When I finally pulled back, her lips were swollen, her breath unsteady. She rested her forehead against mine. "You're insane," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You'll get yourself taken out." "Then I'll go with your name on my lips," I said, my voice fierce and absolute. "But as long as I draw breath, no one will ever take you from me again." I gathered her into my arms and carried her out of that hell, stepping over the bodies of the men who had dared to touch what was mine. My soldiers cleared the path, but I barely registered them. All I could see was Alice, her face buried against my shoulder, her tears soaking my shirt. I had never known fear until her, and tonight proved the terrifying truth. I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of a world where she didn't exist. The journey back to the estate was a hazy dream. My body trembled with every movement of the car. But it wasn't just fear that coursed through me. It was the memory of Vincenzo's kiss. Fierce, desperate, sealing my lips in the midst of chaos and bloodshed. I hated myself for the way I had clung to him, for how he had been the only solid thing in a world that had crumbled around me. By the time we arrived, dawn was painting the sky in soft shades of pink, a serene beauty that felt like a mockery. Guards whispered as Vincenzo carried me through the gates, their eyes wide at the sight of their formidable boss cradling a woman in his arms. I should have felt weak, ashamed. Instead, I just felt empty. He didn't release me until we were in the sanctuary of his study, the heavy door closing behind us with a definitive thud. He set me down gently as if I might shatter. His gaze fell to my wrists, red and raw from the ropes, and a muscle in his jaw clenched with a contained fury. "I should have finished him," he growled, pacing the room like a caged animal. "Matteo, Caruso, all of them. I should have ended it tonight." I sat numbly in a leather chair, exhaustion a heavy weight on my limbs, but a small fire inside me refused to be extinguished. "You didn't," I said softly, "because getting me back was more important than getting revenge." His head snapped towards me, his eyes burning with an intense fire. "Yes, because nothing is more important than you." The words twisted inside me, a sharp, painful contradiction. A part of me desperately wanted to believe him. The other part remembered the lies, the forged documents, the stolen life. My chest tightened. "Why?" I demanded, my voice breaking. "Why me? Why force me into this life I never wanted?" He stopped pacing. The silence between us was heavy, suffocating. He moved closer, his expression stripped bare of its usual masks, his voice low and raw. "Because you are not just anyone, Alice. You are Bandi blood, the last heir of Salvatore Bandi. Do you understand? You were born into this world whether you chose it or not. And I needed you." The room seemed to tilt. Bandi. The name he had whispered before, the one that had meant nothing to me. My father, a ghost I never knew. The truth hit me like a physical blow. "You knew," I whispered. "You knew who I was all along. That's why you were on that plane. That's why you did all of this." "Yes," he admitted without a trace of hesitation. "I orchestrated every detail. The flight, the witnesses, the signature. I wove a web so tight you could never escape, because I knew if I didn't claim you, someone else would, and I could not let that happen." Tears blurred my vision, my voice cracking with the weight of his betrayal. "You stole my life." He dropped to one knee before me, his hand trembling as it reached for mine. "I saved it. Do you think I don't know the cruelty of what I did? But I would rather chain you to my side than see you buried because of them. I can endure your hatred, Alice. I cannot endure your absence." I snatched my hand away, my heart feeling like it was splitting in two. "You don't love me. You love having control. You love winning. I was just another piece in your game." His eyes flared, and for the first time, there was no arrogance, no smirk, only a raw, broken honesty. "No, you are the only thing I have ever been afraid of losing. That is not conquest. That is devotion." The room spun. My breath came in shallow, uneven gasps. I wanted to scream, to hit him, to fall into his arms. Every instinct was at war, tearing me apart. Hatred and longing, fury and need. I staggered to my feet, the tears falling freely now. "I can't forgive you," I whispered. "Not for this. Not yet." He didn't move from his position on the floor, just knelt there, watching me as if I were both his salvation and his executioner. "Then hate me, but stay. That is all I ask." I turned away before he could see the war raging in my eyes, before he could see how much of me already belonged to him. Because the truth of it terrified me more than any of his lies ever could. A part of me didn't want to run anymore. For days I had commanded men, wielded power, and stared into the face of my own mortality without so much as a flinch. But standing before Alice now, watching her shrink away from me, tears of betrayal burning her cheeks, I felt something I had never permitted myself to feel. Fear, not of my enemies, not of war, but of her turning away from me, if only in her heart. She had fled from me in the study, trembling and refusing my touch. I had let her go. I knew if I pushed her then, I would lose more than just her compliance. I would sever the fragile, fraying thread of connection I was desperately trying to weave between us. Now, I stood in the shadows of my own chamber, staring out at the glittering lights of Naples, knowing she was just a wall away. My entire empire had never felt so empty. I didn't sense her presence until she appeared in the doorway, barefoot, wrapped in silk, her face pale, but her gaze steady. She said nothing, and for a long moment, neither did I. The silence between us was heavier than gunfire. Finally, I spoke. The words a raw confession. I have built my life on being fearless. Every man who dared to cross me knew I would face them without hesitation. I have bled on these streets and buried men I cared for. Nothing has ever broken me. I turned to face her, letting her see the cracks beneath the steel. Until you. Her eyes widened, a collision of suspicion and a flicker of longing. "Don't say that," she whispered. "Don't try to twist this into something it's not." "I'm not twisting anything." I moved towards her, my steps slow, deliberate, as if approaching a wild creature that might bolt at any moment. "I orchestrated every part of this because I knew the moment the world discovered you, they would hunt you. And because..." My voice faltered, unsteady for the first time in years. "Because I wanted you. I needed you. And that terrified me more than every enemy I have ever faced." Her breath hitched, but she held her ground. She wrapped her arms around herself, a protective gesture, as if trying to hold herself together against the weight of my words. "You don't need me. You need to be in control. You need to win." I shook my head, a humorless laugh escaping my lips. "If this were only about control, I would have broken your spirit by now. You would be silent, obedient, a hollow shell. But I don't want your silence. I want you, all of you, your rage, your fire, your defiance. I would rather burn in the inferno of your hatred than live in a world without your presence." Her lips parted, trembling with words she didn't speak. For the first time, she didn't argue. She just stared at me, as if seeing the monster stripped of his armor, a man drowning in his own obsession. I closed the final distance between us, stopping just short of touching her. My voice dropped, hoarse and jagged. "I fear nothing in this world. Not death, not war, not betrayal. But the thought of losing you, Alice, it unmakes me. It is the only thing that haunts me in the dead of night." The silence pressed in, broken only by the sound of our breathing. Her eyes glistened, a storm of emotions I couldn't decipher. She raised a hand as if to touch my face, then drew it back, her fingers clenching her own wrist instead. The rejection was a physical blow, but the hesitation, the impulse, it gave me something dangerous. Hope. "Vincenzo," she whispered, her voice thin with conflict. "I don't know what to do with this. With you." I let out a slow breath, lowering my head until our foreheads nearly touched. I didn't kiss her. I didn't dare. "Then don't decide. Not yet. Hate me, fight me, curse my name. But stay. That is all I ask." Her tears finally spilled over, and she turned and slipped back into the shadows of the hallway without another word. The sound of her retreating footsteps was like a blade carving into my soul. I stood alone, my fists clenched, my heart raw. For the first time, I understood the terrifying truth. I had built an empire that could withstand any army. But this one woman, she held the power to bring it all to ruin without lifting a single finger. I couldn't sleep, not after his confession, not after those raw, broken words shattered the impenetrable armor he always wore. "I fear nothing in this world except losing you." The sentence echoed in the silent chambers of my mind long after I had left him, weaving itself into the rhythm of my ragged heartbeat. For days, my hatred had been my shield, my weapon, my identity. But hatred couldn't explain why my body was a constant traitor, coming alive whenever he was near. It couldn't explain why the memory of his kiss in that blood-soaked warehouse still burned on my lips, or why my pulse still leaped at the sound of his voice. It couldn't explain why a part of me, a part I had tried to crush, desperately wanted to believe him. When the moon was high and the estate was cloaked in a suffocating silence, I knew I couldn't hide from the truth any longer. My own feet carried me back to his chamber before my mind could protest. My hand trembled as I reached for the door, but I pushed it open. He was awake. Of course he was. He stood by the window, a solitary figure, his shoulders tense, a glass of amber liquid untouched in his hand. His head lifted as I entered, and the hardness in his eyes softened instantly, dangerously. Alice. My name on his lips was no longer a command. It was a prayer. I closed the door behind me, leaning against the cool wood as if to seal us in a world where only we existed. "I can't keep fighting this," I whispered, my voice breaking, but I didn't care. "I can't breathe with this war between us anymore." He set the glass aside and moved toward me, his steps slow and cautious, as if he feared I might dissolve into mist. "Tell me what you want," he murmured, his voice rough with emotion. "And it's yours. Anything." Tears blurred my vision. "I want..." My chest ached, my throat tight, the truth finally clawing its way free. "I want to stop pretending I don't feel this." His breath caught, a sharp, audible sound in the quiet room. In the next heartbeat, he was before me, his hand cupping my cheek, his thumb gently brushing away a tear. "Say it again," he commanded softly, desperately. "Say it, Alice." I met his gaze, my own finally free of pretense. "I want you." The words were a spark to dry tinder. His mouth crashed down on mine, not with the violence of possession, but with the desperate urgency of a man who had been starving for a lifetime. I melted into him, my fingers tangling in the fabric of his shirt, pulling him closer, my need a mirror of his own. The kiss was a conflagration that devoured, consumed, and somehow healed. He lifted me into his arms as if I weighed nothing, carrying me to the bed without breaking contact. The world outside, the enemies, the lies, the betrayals, it all ceased to exist. There was only us, only this fire that had burned through all my resistance, my hatred, my fear, until nothing was left but surrender. When his lips moved to my throat, when his hands traced the lines of my body with a mixture of reverence and hunger, I didn't pull away. For the first time, the war inside me was over. There was only a single, undeniable truth. I wanted this. I wanted him. Not because he demanded it, not because he forced it, but because I was choosing it. Mine, he whispered against my skin, his voice ragged, almost broken. Yes, I breathed, the word an exhaled vow. Yours. The night became a blur of heat and fire, an intimacy that bound us more deeply than any forged signature ever could. Every kiss, every touch, every shiver chipped away at the walls I had so carefully constructed, until I was laid bare in his arms. I hated that it felt like coming home. I hated that I didn't hate it at all. When it was over, I lay against his chest, our breaths entwined, my heart still racing with a truth I could no longer deny. His hand traced lazy circles on my back, his lips pressing into my hair as if he never intended to let me go. And for the first time, I didn't want him to. I should have been terrified of what this surrender meant. Instead, all I felt was the quiet ache of inevitability. Somewhere between fury and fire, I had fallen, and there was no escape left in me. The night air reeked of smoke and conflict. Naples was fracturing, alliances cracking, and old debts being called due in blood. The Morettis had made their play, emboldened by Caruso's desperation. And at the epicenter of it all was Matteo, standing in the courtyard of my own estate, smiling like the serpent he was. He had chosen his stage well. My men were engaged with his beyond the gates, but here it was just us, him and Alice, who stood frozen at the top of the marble steps, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fury. He had dared to bring his war to her. "Vincenzo," Matteo called out, his voice a lazy drawl that carried across the courtyard. "I wondered how long it would take you to come out of your fortress. Tell me, does your little bride understand how much of this is her fault?" I raised my weapon, my teeth bared. "Say her name one more time, and I will cut that tongue from your mouth." He laughed, a low, venomous sound. "She looks at me differently than she does at you, you know. She sees an escape. She sees freedom." I moved before he could finish the thought, my fury detonating in every muscle. We collided in the center of the courtyard, steel ringing against steel as his blade met mine. The clash was sharp as thunder, sending sparks into the darkness. Every strike was lethal. Every move was driven by years of rivalry that had sharpened into a deadly obsession. But I wasn't fighting for territory or pride. I was fighting for her. Matteo lunged, his blade slicing across my ribs, a hot bloom of pain spreading through my side. I didn't falter. I drove him back, my fist connecting with his jaw, blood spraying from his lips as he staggered. My vision turned red. All I could see was Alice at the top of those stairs, trembling, watching, mine to protect. I grabbed Matteo by the throat and slammed him against a stone wall, the point of my blade pressing into his chest, just above his heart. His laughter was a ragged, blood-choked sound, but it didn't stop. "Go on," he sputtered. "Do it. Show her what you really are, a butcher, a monster, no different from me." Behind me, I heard Alice cry out my name, her voice sharp with terror. "Vincenzo, don't." The sound cut deeper than Matteo's blade ever could. My grip tightened, every instinct screaming at me to end him, to silence his taunts forever. But her voice, her plea, held me in place. Not because I valued his life, but because I valued hers. I turned my head just enough to meet her eyes. She was shaking, but her gaze was steady, burning into me. "If you do this, you prove him right," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Don't let him make you into what he is. Don't let him take you from me." For a moment, the world stood still. My blade hovered, my breath harsh in my chest. Matteo's smirk finally faltered as he realized her words reached a part of me his never could. Slowly, I pulled the blade back and released him. He crumpled to the ground, coughing up blood, defeated but alive. My men surged forward to drag him away, to be dealt with in quieter, harsher ways. I didn't spare him another glance. He was already nothing. My entire focus was on Alice. I strode towards her, my shirt stained, the fury still vibrating in my veins. She met me halfway down the steps, her hands gripping my arms as if to assure herself I was real, that I was alive. Her tears shone in the flickering firelight. "I thought you were going to do it," she said, her voice breaking. "I thought I was going to lose you to the darkness." I cupped her face, my thumb brushing her cheek. "I almost did, but you stopped me." Her lips trembled into something between a sob and a smile. "Maybe you do belong to me after all." I kissed her then. Not a kiss of anger or possession, but something deeper, something I had never given to anyone before. The courtyard was still burning. The city was still bleeding. But in that moment, nothing else existed. There was only us, bound not by forged documents or stolen vows, but by a truth neither of us could deny any longer. She was mine, and I was hers. And together, we had survived the fire that had threatened to consume us both. The gardens of the Dantas estate were quieter than I had ever known. Warm summer sunlight spilled over marble statues and roses that drooped, heavy with blossoms. For once, no guards lingered in the shadows. No enemies lurked beyond the gates. There was only a fragile, unexpected peace. I sat in the shade of an old cypress tree, my hands folded in my lap. It had been weeks since the night of fire and blood, weeks since Matteo's final defeat and the end of the war that had nearly torn Naples apart. Life within the mansion walls had returned to a semblance of normalcy, but nothing inside me felt the same. I was not the same. I pressed a hand to my stomach, my breath catching as the truth of it pulsed through me again. It was early, but the signs were unmistakable. The doctor had only confirmed what my body already knew. I was carrying Vincenzo's child. My throat tightened as I whispered the words to the quiet garden, words that sounded both impossible and inevitable. I'm pregnant. 1,000 emotions warred within me: fear, wonder, disbelief. I thought of the girl I used to be, orphaned, invisible, scraping by in a world that never truly saw her. That girl could never have imagined this moment, sitting in a palace, married to the most feared man in Italy, carrying his heir. And yet, here I was, my fingers curled against the fabric of my dress, protecting the secret I had yet to share. How could I tell him? Vincenzo, the man who claimed to be fearless, who dealt in violence and fire. Would he see this as a vulnerability? Or would it be the one thing that could finally undo him, just as his love for me already had? But then I thought of his arms around me, of the night I had freely chosen him, of the way he had lowered his blade at my command. And I knew the truth. He would protect this child with the same terrifying fury he used to protect me. For the first time, I didn't feel like a pawn. I felt like a beginning. A soft breeze stirred the roses, their petals scattering like whispered secrets. I closed my eyes, pressing my hand more firmly against my stomach, and allowed myself a small, secret smile. This was no longer just my story. It was ours. Mine, Vincenzo's, and the tiny life growing inside me. And for the first time since my world had been turned upside down, I had no desire to run. Night had settled over the estate, the kind of deep stillness that had always felt unnatural to me. I had lived in chaos for so long, I had forgotten how to trust the quiet. But tonight was different. The war was over. Matteo was gone. The Carusos broken. The Morettis scattered. For the first time in years, my empire was secure. And yet, none of that held a fraction of the importance of the woman waiting for me in our chamber. Alice stood by the window, the moonlight turning her hair to silver. She turned as I entered, her eyes full of an emotion I couldn't quite decipher, her hands folded protectively over her stomach. Something about the gesture made me freeze in my tracks. "What is it?" I asked, my voice rougher than I intended. I crossed the room, each step heavy with a sudden unease. "What's wrong?" Her lips trembled as she whispered, "Nothing is wrong. But everything is changing. Confusion cut through me until my gaze followed hers, until I understood the meaning of her posture, of her hands pressed against her body. The air left my lungs in a harsh exhale. "Alice, I'm pregnant," she said softly, the words as delicate and fragile as glass. "You're going to be a father." For the first time in my life, my knees felt weak. I sank down before her, not in defeat or exhaustion, but in the face of something far greater: awe, reverence, fear. My hands found her waist, then moved to her stomach, trembling as I pressed my forehead against her. A child. Our child. Proof that everything I had fought for, bled for, killed for, it all had meaning. Proof that I could create, not just destroy. I feared nothing, I whispered, my voice breaking. "Nothing but losing you." My throat tightened as I looked up at her, my eyes burning. "And now I fear losing you both. I swear to you, Alice, I will protect you and this child with everything I am, with every last drop of blood in my body." Her fingers slid into my hair, a gentle, grounding touch. Tears shimmered in her eyes, but her smile was steady. "I don't need you to be invincible, Vincenzo. I just need you to be here, with me, with us." I rose slowly and pulled her into my arms, holding her as if she were the only anchor in a world of shifting sand. My lips found hers in a kiss that wasn't about fire or fury, but about a promise, about forever. As the moonlight bathed us, I realized something I had never dared to believe. I was no longer alone. My empire could crumble, my enemies could return, but none of it would matter, because I had her, and soon I would hold our child. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of what the future held. I was ready to live it. Thank you for being here until the very end. Your presence means more than you know and helps this channel to continue creating. Your interaction is incredibly important. Every time you like, comment, or share a video, you're telling the platform that this story is worth sharing, and that inspires me to keep writing with passion and soul. If you connected with the stories I bring here, please consider leaving a like or a small comment. Even a simple "I was here" warms my heart more than you can imagine. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It costs nothing, and by turning on notifications, you'll be the first to know when a new story arrives. If it's not too much to ask, share this on your social media, on WhatsApp, or with a friend who might need to hear something beautiful today. Your support truly makes a difference. Let's spread stories of love in a world that is so often filled with noise and pain. Perhaps with a small gesture, we can make our world just a little bit better. Thank you for being here. May you always, always feel welcome.